Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute today to talk to you about the power of language and institutional authority. Okay, this is something I've paid particular attention to as I've studied the history of culture and institutions in my bachelor's and master's programs, which were both in the field of humanities and culture, right? We have to understand power, both through language and institution, is very enculturated, right? It's just something that I've spent a long time observing in conversations with people, but also in the history of governments, in the history of churches, in the history of religions. This is a really subtle thing that presents itself, right? Both in individuals and institutions, which are really made up of individuals trying to vault a certain kind of systemic authority, you could say, or institutional authority, right? The real question is, where does authority come from at every level, right? It's actually really simple, guys. You give others the right to be an authority in your life in any way, right? This is the truth, but we often don't understand that that's what's going on. So you will accept someone as an authority on a truth or truth itself, but it's because you have found them to be authentic in their expression of something, right? So I feel like Elon Musk is a trustworthy authority in the area of entrepreneurship, right? I love to hear him talk. I love to hear how he thinks. He's a very creative person. He has a very good business sense. I have accepted him as an authority in this area, but I have given him that space in my life. I have given to him the authority to speak to me. He did not come to me and say,
"Jason, you must accept me as an authority on entrepreneurship and business sense. You have to. Don't you see everything I've done?"
No, it's the opposite. I saw everything he did. I've heard him speak, and I recognize that he has some authority and a good deal of authority in these things. But it was never forced upon me. I chose to accept the degree of authority that he has. This is how it works. Institutional authority, guys, is often the opposite. People will try to force you to accept them as an authority. This is unnatural. If you really observe Christ in the way that he spoke, in the way that he acted, guys, the ultimate example of Christ's ideals of authority is expressed on the cross. God came down, became flesh, and did not force people to accept the authority of his truth or power. He offered it. He opened the invitation for us to come into a relationship with him and accept him as an authority over us. But he never forced it. Jesus on the cross was God saying, "I will never make you accept who I am, what I say, or what I can do. I will never force you to accept it. You must choose to accept my authority and power." Right? It is never God's will to institutionalize his power, authority, or truth. It is always personal. This is why Jesus died on the cross, but also gave the Holy Spirit, so that we could have a personal relationship with God, his authority and power, right? And even if you have the Holy Spirit, guys, you must choose to accept the role of the Holy Spirit by degrees. This is why immersion in the Spirit is by degrees. And this has been my experience. I've been a Christian for 41 years. The degree to which I am surrendered to the authority and power of God and his truth in my life now is much more in depth than it was 41 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 5 years ago. I have chosen by degrees to accept God's authority and power and truth in my life. At no point have I ever experienced God pushing and forcing me to accept. Now, he will definitely exert a strong, persuasive argument to me in many ways, experientially, mentally, emotionally, right? Spiritually. God has his ways of encouraging us towards the truth. Sometimes he just simply lets us suffer the consequences of bad choices, right? But God never comes in as authoritative, tyrannical, dictatorial presence. And so we have to extrapolate that model from God, from Christ, out to humans, whether that be religion, government, or our personal relationships with people. Even in a business sense, guys. Nobody can force you to comply. You choose it, and of course, there are consequences to not choosing it, right? If you have a boss at work and you choose not to listen to them, even when they're wrong, there will be consequences. Whistleblowers experience this all the time, guys. Edward Snowden. He chose to do what he knew was right, but he knew the consequences, and now he's in exile, right? I think he did what was right. I mean, that's my personal opinion, but look at the consequences. Like, he acknowledged the fact that he had a choice, and he did not have to follow the authorities over him, even though there were great and dire consequences. He could have died. He could be in prison right now. He chose to defy a large group of authority figures over him, an authoritative institution above him, to do what he believed was right. He understood the power that he had individually to choose whether or not he would comply with an authoritative institution or a group of authoritative people. We have the same ability in every situation, guys. Nobody ever makes you. Now, we are often deluded and ignorant of the authority, power, structures, and people that we're engaging with. Sometimes, often, we think we have no choice. We always have a choice. You always have a choice to choose the authorities over you and the role of an authority in your life. You always have that choice. And so, if you are someone under authority or if you are someone in authority, if you do not understand the freedom of choice in the midst of authority, then you will be exercising authority incorrectly. And you will be opposed to the Spirit of God in doing that. So be aware of how people talk as well. When people say, you're wrong. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, what will people think of you? When people use shame to try to coerce you, when people try to manipulate you through language by basically, authority presents itself in language often in terms of manipulation and shame. Really, a lot of times they just try to make you feel stupid. Like, oh, you think that? How stupid. I have a degree in this and you don't know what you're talking about. You're stupid. Like, it's really shame and trying to humiliate people and make them feel dumb. This is often the way that people present themselves through language. Like, look, guys, in conversation, it's really easy to say, you know what? You probably know more than me in that area. But hey, if you're going to try to shove it down my throat, then F you. That's my approach, guys, is like, look, if you want to have a conversation with me and share your wisdom, I'm very open to that. I will listen and I will acknowledge when I don't know something, and I will acknowledge that you do know something more than me in an area. But when you try to turn your knowledge in an area into an authoritative stance, and I should listen to you because you're smarter than me, no, that is improper and incorrect. Like, I don't have to listen to you. I don't care if you've got 15 degrees in the subject. Doesn't mean you know everything. It doesn't mean you're an authority, because I choose whether to acknowledge your wisdom. And, I would be amiss not to, but I can differentiate what you know. I can differentiate between what you know and your right to speak truth to me. I choose whether to listen to you. You never force it. And so, it is a wise person that can acknowledge someone else's expertise, but it is a wiser person who can acknowledge that nobody has the right to force them to believe anything or do anything or accept anything, right? So be wary of people that try to force their views on you, guys. They don't know authority. They don't have an authority because they have knowledge. That doesn't give them authority. Knowledge does not give you authority over people. And that's, I think, the biggest falsehood in the arena of authority, power, knowledge, and institutional power and authority, right? Just because someone has 15 degrees in an area and they've actually had 20 years of experience doesn't mean they have the right to force you to believe or agree with them. You choose it. But a wise person will acknowledge the expertise of someone else, and I think that's fine. Like, you don't have to act like you're smarter than someone when you're not. Again, then you're participating in that power system through language and through action, right? So it's like, hey, yeah, but also recognize when someone's not accepting your authority and expertise and knowledge in something, right? So there's lots of different ways to come to truths, right? You may have come to a similar truth as someone else in a different way. if they're discrediting your truth because you didn't come to it in their way, again, that's a power play. That's using language to shame people and to control them and to make them feel stupid. So, I don't know. There's a lot more that I have to say about this. There's a lot more thinking I've done on this that I haven't put together yet because I haven't sat down and written it out. But I think it's very diabolical the way that most people participate with authority and power and try to exert it over people, or actually even participate being under authority in the wrong ways. You don't have to accept anything from anyone. You choose it. Never think that you're a victim, guys. Never play the victim when it comes to truth and conversation. You're not a victim. Don't play the victim. Nobody makes you. Nobody can make you. Do not give people the wrong form of authority in your life. But do not deny the true authority people have because of their experiences, their journey, their knowledge, their understanding, and their expertise, right? Got it? If that makes sense, hold up your hand. Just kidding, I can't see you holding up your hand, but, clap twice. No, I hope that does make some sense, guys. Sometimes we need to take back the true authority we have over our own lives, our own understanding, and our own journey of truth.